the system is more at fault than the doctors, right?
Yeah. And the big companies making all the money.
That too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I used to think, while I believe that my symptoms were genetic and something I couldn't fix, I would listen to those stories and just think they were conspiracy.
Right.
So it's like, the drug companies are pushing this and that. It's like, don't be silly. It's a conspiracy, but
right.
That seems to be the case now that I look at it. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So you've had a big change since seeing this gentleman.
Yeah, big time. Some of the things that I learned, man. I wish I had them in point form. I'm starting to kind of do that. I'm starting to write now.
Yeah, which
is great. It's a great tool. It's a great way to document your thoughts, things that are intangible. You want to bring it out into something that is tangible.
Sure.
But yeah, a handful of things like I used to beat the shit out of myself.
Like verbally in your mind?
Yeah. Anytime I failed, I would just give myself 50 lashes.
Really? Yeah. So you had abusive voices in your head just telling you you're a shitty person and your failure, this and that, some of that stuff. Yeah.
Which on one hand, I loved it because it drove me to be better.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Yeah.
But there's more constructive ways to do it. You don't have to beat, you don't have to walk away from it with scars. And like, I would just ream on myself.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what kind of things would you say to yourself?
Well, just like, you're a fucking idiot, man. How could you, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I wouldn't allow myself to. Another thing I used to do too is just kind of suppress my emotions. So I tried to reach a state where I was man enough or big enough to ignore my emotions. It's like, somebody insulted me. I feel pain now. Just bury it down there.
Sure.
Punch it out or whatever.
Yep.
Whereas now, actually, that's one of the things that the doctor said is you can't do that. It's impossible because it's like the lower part of your brain receives those. I mean, that I guess generates the emotion.
Yep.
And it's the higher part of the brain that needs to rationalize. So it's not like the higher part of the brain will filter out insults. It's just you got to feel that pain. You got to feel the emotion.
Yeah.
And then you work with it.
Right.
So let it happen.
Sure.
So don't try and fight it. Another thing is, just allow yourself to feel like, even for this, I might be a little bit nervous before we start.
Yeah.
And before I would be like, oh God, like what a failure I am for having that sort of a fear.
Yeah.
How dare I?
You'd overanalyze kind of even just the simplest thought.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I
before
didn't,
the podcast,
I didn't give my permission.
Right.
I didn't give myself permission to be able to be fearful, to be anxious, to be depressed.
Right.
Whereas now I acknowledge the fact that I'm human.
Yeah.
And I'm allowed to do that.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to have those feelings.
Yeah.
So, and that alone, once I really discovered that, it helped a lot. Right.
Yep.
Kind of prevented any sort of disasters.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things. I would say the anxiety I have pretty much under control.
Good, man.
Absolutely.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah, me too.
For
absolutely.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And it's the depression now that I'm going to work on a bit more. And to do that, like, it's tough because you really have to, like in a typical session when you go in and speak with a psychoanalyst, you just, his first line will be like, so how's it going? And you're like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, why? why do you think that? And you give an explanation. It's like, oh, that's interesting. Now, why would you think that?
Yeah.
They seem like they have the easiest jobs in the world.
Right, because they're just constantly questioning
That's
you.
it. Yeah. It's just keep digging.
Yeah.
Hear more. But no, it's very, it's strategically placed questions and they listen, which is huge.
Yep.
That's probably the most important thing.
It's very important.
It's very important, and to ask that why question at the right time, and at several times, I would say, listen, just stop listening to me. Can you just like drill me some information? Can you just tell me how
hammer
to
it home?
Just
fix me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can't do that. That's not my job. You
Yeah.
need to discover it on your own.
Yeah,
that way
sure.
you learn it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just a lecture, and you'll more or less have to memorize it for it to stick, and
Yeah.
that's not the way it goes.
That's really interesting that they do it that same way, because it's very similar to a coaching approach.
Is that right?
It is. Yeah. It's. I mean, we try to steer clear of the why question, but we'll rephrase it in like, how did you come to that realization? Or it's just the why question is more therapy based, but we still know that the answer comes from within the individual. So it's just asking what we call powerful questions to help that stuff surface and to get their thoughts out of the way, really. The ones, the little voices that are kind of beating them up, the ego.
Yes.
To let the stuff coming from in here, from your heart, surface past your mind. So.
Right. Yeah, man. Yeah, it's very important.
Yeah. So what kind of stuff are you realizing now? I mean, what are some of the aha moments you've had recently?
Yeah.
Can you pinpoint some of them?
Just a lot of things, like subtle things, things that. So a lot of times, I find myself saying, I don't know. Like he'll ask, why do you feel that way?
Right.
Or why do you think that is the way it is? And the initial answer to that is, I don't know.
Yeah.
But you do know. It's just those memories are really buried.
Yeah.
And they don't go away.
Right.
They're always there.
Right.
You just have to really search for them, and it takes time.
Does it when you're trying to figure that out, so say that you realize underneath it all that you think a certain way because somebody obviously programmed you that way.
Right.
So when you're trying to figure out who that person is or that exact moment,
right,
you're saying that it's there, it's just a matter of trying to find it.
Yeah.
How, is there any way that you could misconstrue that and somehow an imagination or like a dream could potentially override that, do you think? That's something I'm always curious about.
No, that's actually good. So you're saying like
is there something that maybe your mind could potentially make up and implant there? Or you know how you hear things like people going into therapy and sometimes they will talk about a childhood memory that was repressed.
Right.
And sometimes it's like, okay, well, how was that so repressed? Or did the mind... I always sometimes question whether or not that's a made-up... Like, how do we know that that's a real thing that happened?
Oh.
Or the mind's not actually...
Yeah, the mind knows, man.
Yeah, you think so, eh? Okay. Yeah.
No, definitely, yeah.
Because that's something... I've never been that deep in therapy.
Gotcha.
My therapist was never... The therapist that I saw, never... Like you said, it must be nice to have someone that listened. Half the time, the guy that I remember, I'd look over and he was fucking passed out. I mean, mind you, he's a busy guy.
That's hilarious.
But he was an older guy. He was a family.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, he was a family friend. But he was kind of like this, and he tried to hide it, right? But
that's something from what's that movie? Analyze This or something. Where the guy's nodding off.
Pretty much,
that's
right?
Hilarious.
Where you could
he's
just
drawing a goofy picture in his notepad.
Yeah,
that sucks, man. It's funny too, but
it's just not. It wasn't a right fit. So my experience was,
and you might have to juggle a few to find the one that works.
But for me, even if I think back, like I can try my hardest, and like I don't know. It just doesn't seem like I do know these things.
Will.
But really,
you have to keep drilling it. It's tough. It's boring. But if you think about why you're doing it, it gives you the will to do it. And during the session, it's like I try not to do the digging during the session because you only have an hour, and so I find it's best to kind of do that
on your own time.
On my own time.
Yeah.
Like an hour each night or something, like before bed or something.
Is that a lot of thinking, or how do you? It is.
Yep.
So what do you do? Yep. Do you just sit there and kind of really?
Yeah. It might be worth it to write some stuff down.
Yeah, journaling's always good.
And it's not like I'm afraid. It's not like I'm preventing these memories from coming up. I'm trying my hardest.
Yeah.
And that's why I keep thinking that, man, it's got to be I keep going to that belief that it's physical, because I can't come up with a reason why I'm depressed.
Right.
So, and I tell him that, he's like, you will find it.
Really?
Yeah.
So there is so this gentleman that you're seeing firmly believes that there is a reason why everyone is depressed. It's just
there's a reason why we are,
and we can pinpoint that reason if we go back far enough. And really, that I find really interesting. That I didn't know.
Too.
Yeah,
to the point where I couldn't really believe it.
Yeah.
Because I thought I was smart. Like I thought I was like, nah, I got this psychology thing. Like there's the ego, right, being big. But
sure,
I thought I really had it handled, and no, this guy really showed me that wasn't true.
Wow.
Yeah, he must be basing that off of previous experience with his other clients, or like all the articles he reads.
Right.
But yeah, man, he's very sure of himself in that regard. So.
Well, that must feel nice for you, having that sense of confidence, because you obviously don't have it right now.
Big time. Big time.
I'm guessing it's probably through previous experiences. He just knows. I hope that it's not based on belief. I hope that he actually knows.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Yeah.
Again, I was like, how can you be so bold with that? He's like, I can. I was like, do you want to give me some of your resources? Like, like do you learn your stuff off YouTube? He's like, no.
Yeah.
He has access to his stuff, and
that's where the impatience thing comes up too, because we're such an impatient society. I mean, you just want to fix it, but
that's what I tell him too.
Yeah,
he's like, I can appreciate that, but that doesn't happen.
No. Well, you have to think about how long it took you to get this way, and you were conditioned over so many years. It's not going to...
Yeah, we all want that magic pill, and especially now, like you say, because we are impatient, big time.
Less and less.
Yeah, like more...
Yeah, like more and more impatient, less patient. Yeah, less and less patient as time progresses. I mean... you can be scrolling down, and I remember reading things like, I watched your video for 3 seconds. I'm like, well... Yeah. That says a lot about you right there. I mean, maybe you should work on trying to just give things a little bit of a chance.
Does it say something about him, though, or about society? Or it's tough, man. It's like, where do you draw the line, like, as to who's, I don't know, not to point fingers at who, but like, you know what I mean? Like, finding the cause of all this, because we're all like that.
We are, yeah.
We're all like that.
We are.
My dad just got a phone. And he used to give a shit about like always being on our phones.
Yeah, and now he's in it.
I catch him doing this all the time.
Yeah, no, I know.
Without him knowing it.
Right.
So is it his fault? I mean, he was complaining the whole time, but I don't know. Maybe it's just humanity. Human nature. And,
I don't know either. It's it's interesting for parents, because I catch my dad too. Like he'll whenever there's some fact that he doesn't know, he just loves having Google right in his pocket now. He doesn't have to go to. Yeah, he doesn't have to go to the library anymore, right?
Yeah.
And so he'll just pull it out and Google it, and he likes to know the answer right away. So that's huge for him. Yeah. But yeah, same thing. You catch them at any time that they don't have their phone now. Before, they didn't care. It was like, mom doesn't have her phone on, or dad doesn't. But now that they have more people contacting them through their cell phones, they're definitely more aware of when they don't have it on them, and they're like, where's my phone?
Yeah, I remember one time my brother's friend, we were out, and he mentioned that. He's like, I'm trying to not reach for my phone.
Yeah.
It's good to have it on because you need it, right?
Sure. Yeah. But it can be a lifeline if you're a parent.
Yeah, like right now, like it's like, if you're off doing something, I reach for my phone. It's, it's conditioned.
It is conditioned.
It's like, what am I even looking at?
Yeah. I try now.
Facebook notifications.
Yeah. I try now to, when people do that and they're not paying attention, instead of doing the same thing and mimicking that behavior.
Okay.
I try now to just kind of look around and take in what else is going on. Use your other senses and be like, okay, well, what am I seeing? What am I hearing? What am I feeling? What am I smelling? And kind of exploring that before I go for the phone. But there's automatic conditioning that happens too. And sometimes they're like, oh yeah, I'm just going to take a minute.
Yes,
Remember to breathe.
Yeah. No, it's great what you said too before we started this, where you're like, we're talking about chakras or whatever. And
chakras, yeah.
Yeah, so basically that's like a way to get you out of your head.
Yeah.
And that's something that's kind of unrelated to the problems I've been having or whatever with mental health, but that's something that is very beneficial. There's no real... I wish I can give you like a professional explanation as to why we do it, but there's no real benefit to being in your head all the time.
Not at all.
And I would say a little bit, maybe at the end of the day, maybe a half an hour to ruminate what, the events of the day, because then you can kind of parse and set aside what is important, what's not, what you should keep long term. But apparently that's what you do when you sleep. But you're right, especially during the day, man. Yeah, like, be aware of where you are.
Well, that's it's so interesting to me. I've said that a few times tonight because it's a great conversation, especially with your bringing your shrink. It's almost like he's here with us. But we go and see these psychiatrists in order to get ourselves figured out. But at the end of the day, if you focus on what the Buddhists do, which are the enlightened people of the world.
Very true.
All they do is focus on being in the present moment and not listening. You know, they have thoughts and they just come and they go. They don't attach.
Yeah.
But we're still like grasping, even with
yeah.
the psychiatrist and whatever, we'll grasp that, where they say the key is just to release it and focus on being here.
Dude. And you know what, man?
So it's really just, it's a wild, the difference that's still
You know
here.
what's frustrating though is like I completely see what you mean there.
Yeah.
When I bring that up to my shrink,